status update. Today is August 24th and it is 11 a.m. Chairman Filios is not joining us today. He had another engagement that he had to take care of. And so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Attending in person are Chair Pro Tem Duncan and Commissioner Brooks. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, our first item of business is temporary exception to policy 311, and it is an action item. Michelle, are you speaking to this? Because I don't see anyone else.
I'm not aware of it, so.
Okay. And Darren, are you on the line?
Leslie, Darren.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you want to speak to this, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can speak to it. So I did talk to Jim and Jennifer about what their issues are and took a closer look at the FLSA regulations. And there are some FLSA concerns.
Okay.
So the best way, and then Sylvia and I discussed it as well, the best way to proceed is these individual employees who want to participate as poll workers, they would be volunteers, and there is an exception to the FLSA for governmental and nonprofit employers to allow employees to volunteer for the organization. So we can do that, and we can also pay them, but not as employees, but pay them as volunteers. So it's really not an hourly rate. They're just being paid as a volunteer.
Okay.
But in order to do that, it does appear that we need an exception to policy 311. I believe it's section 6.
G, like George.
G, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so, yep. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Bill, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. If you're good with the exception for the poll workers for this upcoming election, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve the temporary exception to policy 311, was it
6.
section 6G for poll workers.
Yes, and I'll second that motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chairman Pro Tem Duncan.
Aye. All right. So we got that out of the way. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
All right, so our next item is the Armory Building Emergency Operations Center. And, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to also read this. Chairman Phillies couldn't be here, but he said that I agree with item G and the temporary exception to item G. And then I'll read this for item number 2, which is the Armory Building. I believe we should proceed with the lease to take full advantage of COVID renovation money. We can address the particulars. For example, segmenting of the 2.4 acres at a later time. It's my understanding the groups destined for the Armory are airport staff, OEM, KCSO deputies, and related. I will contact real estate agent or interested donor to advise him that search and rescue is not destined to move to the Armory. So with that, Sean, did you want to start us off?
Sure. I don't think the airport is destined to do the Armory either. So
That was
just,
not my
just,
understanding.
yeah, just to clear that up. So I guess before we get too far down the road, I'm going to put Corey on the spot. So Corey, if we get the green light today, can we get this done by December 15th? We got to hope everything falls into place.
So everything meaning what?
We need Corey Trapp, Lone Trapp Architects. But we have to get the plans done by the middle of September, which means I've got to hop on this like today and get the drawings done. We're going to have to work some overtime to get that done. We have to submit for permit, get it out for bids and contractors so that we can get them started by the 1st of October. We also going to need a little cooperation from the building department to maybe help get it through the process a little quicker too,
Sure.
so we can get started.
We have connections for that, I think, so. Okay, well, with that being said, then, the contract for Longwell Trap has already been approved by Dave Ferguson, so I'll put that on for next Tuesday.
Provided
provided everybody agrees that we can do it. But if we can, we can move the ball as quick as possible. I think that, like we talked on Friday, I talked with each one of you. I think the opportunity's there, and we're gonna get the building renovated. It's not gonna cost anything. If the undersheriff wants to speak to the lease of the property for the rest of the 9 months of fiscal year, because to me, that seems to have been more of the discussion about, do we buy the land? Well, now we know that the land is not 2 acres, the land is 8 acres. So purchase of the land that scope has changed now. We can't just buy without subdividing it. We can't buy 2 acres. So, Dan, if you wanted to speak to the leasing of it, I don't know what else we would need to work out.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not opposed to the leasing option. And I guess the bottom line is where we're gonna get the money. And, obviously this is a great opportunity in that we got $650,000 to renovate the building. We don't wanna let it fall through. On our end, we wanna work with the board to see if, I don't know how much money is gonna be left over on our budget at the end of this year. I know that we're sort of counting on some of that already to buy the body scanner, and Nancy Pluff has sort of crunched those numbers. We didn't get that far to talk about, whatever the lease amount's going to be relative to how much is left in our budget. But I would like to say this. We would not oppose that money coming out of whatever would be left at the end of our year in our budget. However, we would obviously be concerned if the money wasn't there that we wouldn't be made whole. I guess all I'm saying to the board is if it's there, take it. If not, then what can you do to help us get where we need to go? So is there some other money out there somewhere that maybe we could grab if that wasn't left in our budget?
Okay, so then I think this might be good for Jody to step in.
Sure.
Point of clarification, if I may, and it was probably my error, so I want to make sure that you know that I'm clarifying something that was just said. The airport is actually the parcel where the armory sits, and the 3 acres of that grassy knoll, around 3 acres, probably about 2, that actually is all part of one property, which is 237 acres, or 238 if you want to round up. And that the airport itself is made up of 22 separate parcels, of which 237.2987 is included with the armory. The armory and the focus of that is just what the old armory was. That 8 acres is pretty much what used to be the old armory. So that's what makes up the 8 acres. And I think then that would have to be the question is, how do you subdivide those 8 acres out of the 237,298? So that would be the question.
Okay. And then, are you still talking to anybody at FTA about shared services for the 8 acres?
Yes, so I actually had a conversation with Glenn Miles initially, and this was before we continued to do the due diligence that we're doing now. And there are funds available for us to purchase the land, of which we initially said was that grassy knoll area, which was approximately 3 acres. So if you, the board, gives direction that a joint development would be of interest to you, then I will then continue a conversation as a joint development for purposes of understanding the contribution that FTA would be willing to make on that acres and potentially the county.
For the 8 acres looks like 937,000.
Unfortunately, FTA will not take a lease line as an appraisal. We'll have to conduct our own appraisal using that 8 acres as a whole, not as a lease line.
And then part of the 22 parcels, this is not a separate parcel, is that correct, the 8 acres?
Correct, that's not a separate, and that's my error. So it's part of the 237 that I just quoted to you. And I can give you the exact amount if I find my note. 237.298.
So the 8 acres would need to be removed from there.
You'd have to subdivide that out. And then in speaking with Hayden, we spoke to them about 3 days ago. They would ask that they be part of that subdivision conversation because it's in Hayden, and I said that we would do everything we could be part of that
It's in
conversation.
the ACI.
Yes, please.
Yes, not in the actual city limits.
Correct, but it's in that area of impact. And they're doing some work along Ramsey, and they're also putting in some sewer lines, so we would want that conversation to be had with them. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.
I just have a question, I guess, on the heels of what Jody had to say. It's my understanding that the property that we originally engaged in was roughly 8 acres, is that right? And then, but that the part that the Reserve Center was on is only like 2.3?
That's correct.
Okay, so what's at issue, as I understand it, is obviously timing is important, and the fact that, you know, we want to get in there and get this done by December gets in the way of getting all the gymnastics taken care of as far as reevaluating the property and separating those parcels. Do I got all that right?
Yes.
So with that said, I just want to say for the record that we're in no way opposed to partnering with Jody and her folks, and we'll certainly do whatever we can do to make that work as well, so.
Sure.
All right.
But my understanding, and Stephen can speak to this, is the lease part of it would only be what the armory sits on, only what is going to be used by OEM before the purchase.
That is correct. That's how I understand it. We're going to lease the building at whatever the fair market value is for a period of how long?
You're leasing the land.
The land, I'm sorry, the land.
Yeah, you're not leasing the building.
Building's ours,
The land.
right?
Yes.
Sort of.
Ours.
Yeah, ours. But anyway, I guess I just want to be clear then that, well, the other thing was, is it 9 months that we're going to lease it? Sean, did I hear that?
Yeah, well, we have to be done by December 15th, so I would imagine that the lease would start January 1st.
Okay,
Give them time to move in once we're done.
Sure, yeah, I mean.
So you
that's
would be
all.
looking at 9 months.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks. Stephen? You gotta come up if you're gonna talk. Do you have anything to add? No? No, I don't. Okay. My mic, oh. Just the volume was low. Sorry about that. So, I'm sorry, Dan, I'll probably need you back up again. Utilities and ongoing costs?
You know, we'll do the best we can to make that work, not knowing what it's going to cost up front. But secondly, you know, we're coming into this without having budgeted for it for fiscal year 2021. So with that said, and you know I'm going to say this, our budget's already been kind of cut pretty deep already for fiscal year 2021. We'll do the best we can, but if we come up short, we would just ask the board to take that into consideration and help us out there.
Okay, thanks.
Fair enough? Is that all?
For now.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, Tiffany. Can you talk about the assurances with this grant money? Can, oh, okay.
So the CARES funding is unique in that the policy and regulatory requirements are limited to 3, of which if you're concerned about any type of lease where you'll have to contribute, the answer is no. So that you won't be held to any hostage situation of lease requirements or any assurances that would impact your decisions going forward. I would just say that your desire to use the EOC and the Armory as the EOC, I think taking advantage of this is really good, but you'd want to make sure that your intent and approval is not to do something different in the short term, but rather commit to the EOC.
Okay, so what short term, like, for instance,
If next year-
we build it and then 3 years later, there's a better opportunity. Is there a time frame?
There's not a time frame, but you have to remember that the intent of the money was for purposes of creating an EOC that would help then mitigate issues. And so that's, if your desire to do something different would have to be then, you'd have to include the fact that you've invested in this and have something like kind or better for purposes of the EOC. You wouldn't want it to be less than what it's going to be. So.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I have a couple concerns, and I know that time is short and all that kind of thing. Without having any true funding mechanism for the purchase or for the lease, it's hard for me to just say, okay, let's take advantage, because if 650,000 costs us, $1 million down the road, then I have to be concerned about that. Does that make sense? So we're getting 650,000 free dollars, but yet it's going to cost the taxpayers $1 million.
I don't know how you figure that, though. I mean, I think that that anything's possible. We could get hit by a meteorite right now. Anything's possible, but we have $650,000 on the table, and I just think it's not really smart business to look that gift horse in the mouth when you consider that the building, is sitting there, and we own the land, I guess, but I would have to say that, to think that it's going to cost $1 million, I mean, I guess I can understand you taking the position, well, what if, but what would make you think that?
It's not a what if, it is the land cost $1 million. So somebody's going to have to come up with that eventually to pay down, and we don't know about the FTA right now coming in, and I don't believe we can separate the armory dirt because it's less than 5 acres, and I think that zoning would be, 5 acre minimums. So that's kind of that's just where I'm coming from right now.
Well, my thoughts on this were based on what we knew coming up front, that the property purchase was $235,000. Is that changed? Or
Yes, that has changed.
Okay, so with that said, I guess you may have a point. I don't know, but I don't know how you get to $1 million. You're just trying to say that you think you may have to buy all 8 acres, or?
Yes, that's the point right now is, and I'm being conservative, so I'm using a big number, but yeah, the current, or the last appraisal we got is $937,000 for those 8 acres.
Full 8 acres. So why can't that 2.3 something acres be split off, and we only buy that?
We have to talk to the city of Hayden, and we have to talk to community development, and Panhandle Health will get involved, because it all has to do with the zoning. So I don't know, I didn't know that research ahead of time, because I just most recently found out that this is not splittable.
Well, I'd have to let Sam speak to that.
I don't know that it's gonna cost you $1 million. I mean, if KMPO is looking at getting a appraisal, or FTA needs an appraisal, then, maybe it's 450 here and 450 there. Either way, somebody's gonna have to either lease it or buy it at some point in time, because that's not gonna go away. So you might wanna secure that one, and while you're in the process of doing that, I would start taking a look at SAR and PAC and see if you can just, tidy up that non-aeronautical area in the ALP. So to me, that's kind of because the other option that we've discussed about is probably looking like it's not going to happen.
Right.
So if as a board, you were prepared to say, okay, we did have a dollar amount that was in there that might be spent in 1.5 to 2 years for that particular purchase, well, that was more than what that land's worth by far.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, if you have enough time to make the decisions and take a look at the down the road costs, but we don't have any time basically to get what needs to be done, which is the whole conversation.
Right.
If I may jump in, so obviously public transportation needs a place to go. And I know that initially when we were talking about it being around 3 acres and that cost, that money is already available. So that is not where we would have to figure out to find the money. That money is available. When we pursued it with the city of Hayden, because we needed to understand for the value to verify by an appraisal, that's when we understood that that is not a subdivided area. So if community development, if it's in county and you have free splits, then we would want to investigate whether or not there's a free split that could occur, I don't know, in that area. If there is, then the city of Hayden would not necessarily be looking at 8 acres. They would be looking at the acres of the armory and the acres that the board, if they were so inclined to provide agreement to for that grassy area plus half the parking lot. And so I believe then if you look at it a smaller piece of property where you already have money for the 3 acres, and I don't know, Stephen, what is the acreage for the armory? What is that acreage? Thank you very much.
So I'm going to touch on several things you just talked about too, Jody. The airport has already started the process of doing splits because we have free splits specifically for that 300 some odd acres. We've already started working with community development through Rod's office of the county surveyor. We've already started down that process to split off and subdivide that into the 4 separate lots. We've already started separating out the PAC building, the search and rescue, and also parks and waterways areas. The big hang-up that we keep running into is that City of Hayden does not have anything in their codes to address this situation because they deal with private land developers that don't address this, where they don't own their own sewer system, they don't have their own codes and things like that. And that's kind of where we keep getting stuck on, because that's where I've been negotiating with the City of Hayden for about the past year, and why we actually have moved forward.
And may I just dovetail off of that? Because when we spoke to the City of Hayden, which was 3 days ago, they did say that there was code. It's just a matter of what is the county going to do and how are we going to move forward, especially around the sewer. So I think that because they're putting pipe down, and I don't want to speak for the City of Hayden, I would just say that my conversation with them is that they were very eager to work with us, and it was really understanding everything that you're doing as holistic. So you weren't doing a spot zone of one particular acreage, and that they would just request that they would be part of that conversation, that even if you were not going to be able to use your free splits to get a portion of that out, they would be okay with that, provided they understood what the future held. So if you have initially, let's say 6 acres, but you're going to potentially do 14, they want it to be where they understood the way you would travel in and out and how you would not be accessing off of Ramsey because they didn't want to have to punch a new road off of Ramsey. So it was a very positive conversation, which I'm sure Stephen had with them as well. I think the free split piece that, again, if the board was so inclined, and again, I think that from Stephen's perspective, if you wanted to make sure that FTA and the EOC, you could look at that potentially as one free split, and from there, knowing that the FTA or I have the dollars for a portion of that, which would be more than what we had initially talked about, because the FTA would like to have a portion of that driveway that currently is coming off of Wyoming. And so that, whatever that looked like, I don't know what the remainder of the cost of that piece would be. Also, the city of Hayden pointed out that the sewer system, their drain field, is that grassy area next to the.
Couldn't build on that.
And they're fine with understanding what we're going to do, because if they do have this where they'd put the sewer in, they would like to be able to actually provide some insight as to how they would do that. And they don't necessarily have a sewer cap fee, so that would be favorable in terms of the conversation that you would have with them. So it looked really positive. Would you say that that's fair?
Yeah, and the City of Hayden has been working with me on this for a while. It's just they're not sure how to move forward, because with this change recently, it changes what the original conversation, which was us selling the whole property. So it changed a little bit.
Sure. So when would you expect to start to be paid for the lease?
So it's being started, paid for the lease. That can be done and interpreted a lot of different ways. You could do it when somebody moves in. There could be an argument that says, well, as soon as you start renovation, but it's kind of up to the board decision. It's just we have to at some point be
Compensated.
Yep.
So it sounds like you have an option by what Stephen has said, that when they move in, which would then be, there would be no lease charge for the renovation. You already know that there's approximately $300,000 plus dollars available for FTA, and I'll get that exact number. In speaking with KMPO, they had already indicated that money was available, and I'll give you that total for the land purchase. And then if there was anything else that you were wanting to be part of, we could certainly have that conversation as well in parallel. But initially, the money that we would have for the land would be there, so that little small portion of the EOC building, would you have, just for that land on the EOC, if you were just to take that half of that parking lot and the EOC, could you give us an idea? I won't hold you to it, but the lease.
If you talk where the Armory building sits, it's 2.4 acres. You can shave space out of it, but
I would say the shaving for us is that FTA would want more
I
of
don't
that.
think those are conversations.
Yeah,
need
we
to
don't,
have.
we don't need to get
Oh,
Today.
okay,
too
great.
weedy.
Okay, all
You
right,
can
thanks.
negotiate and discuss all you
Okay,
want.
Yeah.
okay, great, okay. I just was wanting for purposes of your clarification on the
Yeah.
cost, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So Dan, you think that you can somehow find a way to pay for utilities?
You know, it's a difficult question.
Sure.
Because I don't know what they're gonna be. And, but I would say this to you, that in fiscal year '21, when we occupy the building, we'll work with the board in whatever way we can to try to make that come to fruition. If we come up short, then you heard from me now, I'll do our best. But
Okay.
I just can't predict that, but we'll do the best we can.
I just don't see that it's anything we can make any decisions on today in light of new information. So I would say let's go home and do our homework, come back Monday on the 31st and deal with these issues.
Can I just say, that's the drop dead date?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you, today, to me, today was a drop dead date. Because now you're putting another week out. I understand what you're saying, and I get that, but if we're gonna just keep dragging it out, I'm just gonna go, it can't be
I
done.
don't think this is dragging it out. I think this
No,
is finding out information.
I'm dragging it out, maybe it's not the
Critical
right,
information.
right phrase, but I mean, at
So-
some
so
point in
hold on,
time,
hold on.
it's,
If we were to say today, yes, please proceed, and then we paid you for all the work done if this project didn't go forward, is that doable? Okay, you can't, I'm sorry, you gotta be on the record, so,
that would help a lot.
okay.
Okay.
So what, if you could,
And it won't be, in the whole scheme of things, it's a pretty small amount.
okay, so, Bill, your thoughts on that, if,
Yeah, that's fine. I just, we can't make any decisions today, okay? I just don't think anybody in the room would say we should. I disagree. Don't use the word dragging it. Sounds like stalling. and
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
not stalling.
wrong phrase, my
I
bad.
understand. I just want good information to go forward.
sure.
Can I just ask though, what is it exactly, so we all are,
the same
what do we
page,
need
yes.
to know?
Okay, so we need to know the ability to split the property, what that looks like, what FTA is willing to put towards this. So we just need a little bit more background. I think I know where we can get 9 months of rent out of, but Stephen, if you could get me figures this week, that'd be great. But Bill, I'm okay with saying, go ahead, get the plans going, and then we'll just pay if the thing doesn't. So what I will need from Sean and Corey this week is, this is how much the full set of plans is gonna cost, this is how much half the set is gonna cost. That way we know along the way.
And by Monday, we wouldn't be halfway, we'd probably be only about a quarter of the way.
Okay,
And the main thing that I need to do is I need to get into the building this week with Sean and probably the users and just verify a lot of the little things.
sure,
I need to get consultants in there so I can get them going first.
okay. So Bill, are you comfortable?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so do you wanna make the motion, or you want me to?
Go ahead. You've,
Okay.
you brought the new information to the table, so you can make the motion.
Okay, so without committing for the grant or the Emergency Operations Center at the Armory, we would like Longwell Trap to go ahead, start the plans, and give us a quote on different, sorry, Tina, this is gonna be a bad one. Okay. I'd like a quote on percentage done, please, how much that is going to cost. But yes, for Longwell Trap to start the project.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chairman Pro Tem Duncan.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. The reason I stayed up here is just, I want to be clear in my brain, though. You want to know what STA is going to,
FTA,
I'm sorry, FTA is going to bring to the table.
City of
And
Hayden
The City of Hayden.
requirements,
For splitting the property.
correct, and community development's
Role in that.
role too, because if we're dealing with a 5-acre minimum, then that changes our 3 acres of the armory.
Anything else?
I'll try to recap it in an email, Dan, but that's.
Fair enough.
That's kind of where I'm.
Sean's got something.
I just have a question. So I'm gonna work on getting with Corey, getting him in the building with the OEM folks, the
Get the
sheriff folks.
contract on the business meeting for next
I'll
Tuesday.
put the contract on the business meeting for next Tuesday. I wrote that down. So who is gonna work with the city of Hayden and who's gonna work with community development?
Since it's a FTA purchase, I will work with the City of Hayden alongside Stephen, and I will work with Community Development. And Stephen, you can be part of that conversation. So then that way we can expedite the information that you need.
Thank
And it's a
you.
free split, so it's not necessarily Hayden, it's just Community Development and then what Hayden's expectation is. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Dan, are you comfortable?
All righty then.
You don't look
Okay.
comfortable, I don't know.
All right, any other discussion on item 2, please? No? Okay.
No,
Number 3, meeting room audio visual project, and this is Jody again.
So I will have a draft of proposal ready for legal by Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
that's all? You don't have anything?
I thought that was pretty big.
No, I mean,
So
Oh, I was trying to be.
we have quotes?
Well, no, this is the RFP that would get the quotes. So
Oh,
this is the informal
okay.
process for getting the
Okay,
quotes.
so let me read Chairman Filios' statement. I don't believe we have the luxury of going out to bid, given the time frame for implementation and use of COVID dollars.
Well, that is, with all due respect, that is not true because you would be doing the due diligence and being a best practice of getting 3 quotes. So it's not necessarily the same as you would go out for a full-blown RFP. This is just simply taking the technical requirements, which I have, together with the scope of work, which I have, and then sending that out for purposes of being able to get a response.
Okay.
And I would include, actually, if you guys were agreeable, Sean and Building and Grounds Greg, because it is their area that they will be responsible for, so I would like to include them in that process if the board would so direct and be agreeable to.
Yes. You good with that?
Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Okay. Nothing like getting a simple one when chairman's not here. We'll move on to our pending item status review. And I don't know if everybody who's concerned has one. So I'll start with the Romer House. And we are scheduling a 1-hour update for September 8th. They are turning in a couple more facilities use requests for September to have another tour and to have another concert. So when those come in, I'll make sure that the board receives copies of all that.
So is that gonna be a separate meeting? Or is
The
that-
September,
Is that a status update?
it will be a separate standalone. It
On
might
the
be that
8th?
day. Actually, I don't know why it says the 8th here. I haven't got confirmation back from them. So it could be the 8th, could be the 10th.
Okay, I'm not gonna be here the 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Oh, okay,
So I would like to be there for that
sure,
meeting. And can I make a suggestion?
sure.
Could we ask them to bring their financial statements so that we can get some idea? Because at that point in time, now we're mid-September, which is only a couple weeks. I mean, that's like the 12th hour plus.
Right.
So it might be a good idea to at least have some idea of where they stand, because none of us know where they stand right now. I think I have a pretty good idea where they stand. It's like
Right.
this far apart, but
Okay,
we need to know that, I think.
good. Is that good for you?
I think that's a good idea. It is, as you say, not only the 11th hour, but we're approaching midnight, and if funds are not there, I am not going to, myself, vote to extend this again. We've done it several times, and we've been more than cooperative and generous with staff time over there. The county's paying your salary, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Not doing that for free. Not that one.
Yeah, no, it's important money. Anyway, yes, I think that's a reasonable request.
Okay.
All right. And Bill, if you want to chime in on any of your things, otherwise, I know that you're still working on that, and we can move to the fairgrounds, or did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll go quick.
Okay.
Citizens Advisory Committee, that's coming in September. I said after all the budget stuff gets done, and so, and then fire station, are you gonna do that one?
Actually, we have a gentleman in the audience who may want to speak to that. I don't know.
Who would that be?
Hi, Commissioners, how are you?
How are you?
Now, is it still chief, or do you got a different title?
Oh, it is still,
Okay.
it's still Chris, actually. I know that we've been working with the Fair Board, and I know that you've been communicated a little bit. Both our board, Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Board of Commissioners, and the Fair Board Commissioners have looked at a proposed lease for Kootenai County Fire and Rescue to lease a little over an acre towards the southeast corner of the fairgrounds off of 4th and Kathleen. The lease has been approved by our legal at Kootenai County Fire and Rescue and our Board of Commissioners. And I know that the Kootenai County Fair Board did look at it. I have copies here for you. It's also been sent to your legal. The proposal would be for us to build, and I have copies for you of this as well, a 3-bay, 6-bedroom fire station that would house an engine and potentially an ambulance at some point. It also includes a site plan of that. So the lease terms, essentially, we would obviously incur all of the expense of building the station. Our current station across from the Croc Center on Golf Course Road, for a lot of reasons, it was built in the 1970s, it no longer meets code. It would need almost $1 million just to bring it up to code, and we don't actually own all of the property we sit on there. And so for a lot of reasons, we had to go look for other locations. We did that, and I looked at about 4 or 5 locations. After looking at several, this made the most sense to us operationally. We still have access to the interstate down 4th Street. As you know, we serve Dalton Gardens. This actually puts us in a little bit better position to serve the citizens of Dalton Gardens with that. So when we first talked to you all and the Fair Board about this, we talked about which location on the fairgrounds, and it made some sense for that southeast type corner. And so we have proposed a 50-year lease, term of a lease, with the total revenue, and we would ask that it would go to the Fair Board, and here's our reasoning why, is that revenue of $364,800 was figured on how much they would lose over that time in parking by taking that 1 point however many acres, figuring into how much revenue would generate via parking over that 50-year lease would be the term of $364,800. We're proposing that if you are agreeable to the lease, that we would pay you $50,000 upon upon signing the lease, and then the balance upon breaking ground on the lease, which would be hopefully in the spring of 2022 would be our goal. Some of it is dependent on how we finance this, whether we, our first idea is a bond for a new station, which would be our preferred method. If for some reason that wouldn't pass, we would fund the financing of this station solely, probably through the Panhandle Area Council or potentially some other sources. So we haven't looked beyond that, but even if we go to bond next May, we would then finalize all the plans, go through the building permits, all of that to break ground hopefully in March of 2022 with a completion in March of 2023. The timeline is about 12 months from ground into the or a shovel into the dirt. So really, I'm glad to answer any questions. You have again, you have a drawing of what it would look on the outside. You have a site plan there, and you have a general floor plan, obviously not finalized, and not a final architectural drawing, just a conceptual drawing of each of those. But we are certainly more than willing, again, to answer any questions. And if you could check on a status through your legal department of us, I know that Fonda Jovic, who is our attorney, has presented it to your attorneys and has not heard back yet.
Right, I think it's been about 3 weeks, so I can go ahead and follow up on that since Chairman isn't here. And then can we give a copy to Tina and then Chairman? Do you have enough?
I have plenty of copies, and would you like a copy of the lease as well? I brought copies of that.
We should already have that at legal.
Yeah, and I don't need one.
Okay.
I don't either.
Yes, I'm more than happy to drop some copies off. Can I answer any other questions for you?
No, thanks for the impromptu presentation.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
Commissioners.
Chris.
Have a great day. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, U of I Extension, new home. Charlotte, do you have anything to add? You were gonna. Okay, so I did call them all, and I'm expecting a call today. I was expecting a call on Friday, but I did not get one. So hopefully I know that Chairman had said that he was also expecting some calls today. Wait, hold on, sorry, another thing to read. I've contacted commercial broker and another individual in an effort to locate a larger space for U of I. I might have some info today. So he's expecting calls today. Were you able to look at the floor plan and kind of see how it could work?
A few questions on that.
Can you, sorry, you gotta come to a microphone.
You should have me trained already. Charlotte Wilson, University of Idaho Extension. I do have some questions on that Suite 200. What is the occupancy level for that under normal standards and also COVID standards?
Okay.
Because I know that has changed. I know right now we are showing our birds and our bunnies out of the draft horse barn today because their normal barns did not have enough occupancy with COVID standards to allow them to use those buildings. So I just want to make sure that with if we have full staff in the office, we're right around 20 people. That does not include clientele coming into the office.
Sure.
So how often has that happened? Just so I get a picture in my mind, because I've never seen more than 4 or 5 people in there at a time. So is that in the evenings?
Well, that's not even counting when we do meetings that I'm close to 40 in the building.
Because you can't get 40 in this room right now, I don't think,
No,
so.
we can't get 40 in. We've adjusted for right now, but I'm also looking to the future.
Right.
That at some point in time, hopefully we will get to go back to normal occupancies, and I would like to be able to resume our normal class sizes or meeting sizes.
Well, you're not going to be able to
I know.
hold those meetings in there, so.
I understand
so
that, but I'm
occupancy
trying to
for-
think forward as far as, okay.
No, I got you, I got you.
What does occupancies look like?
Sure, I can talk to
Yeah,
Phil today.
we can talk to Phil.
One of our staff may have found another location. I would like to go look at it first.
Okay.
To make sure it's suitable. Just roughly, it's a little over 3,000 square foot, but list price right now is $1 a square foot as well. So it's, square footage brings it up, but it's closer than what some of the other sites. we might have
Great,
looked at.
general location?
Offer Prairie.
Okay, great. Okay, so next,
Okay, so.
next Monday?
Yeah, just for my information, and I've put this in a couple emails, but I still haven't gotten the answer back. Other than the clerk asking for the move on the set date, what is the why?
So they're actually starting to hire poll workers now and training. So training the poll workers and the amount of absentee ballots. And once again, we don't have anybody here to speak to all that. But it's a space issue that they're having to deal with because they've had already bouts of COVID go through there. And so, yeah, right, you're aware of that. So
We're aware of that, but
bringing
only
in-
indirectly.
Right. But bringing in the additional staff for the election is what they're doing right now, is my
So
understanding.
we're just trying to compensate them for the period of the election, not for a longer window.
Well, my understanding is going forth, they need that extra space anyway, just because of we're now over 90,000 registered voters. So that's, they're
I just,
expanding.
just so I could have it in my mind, I
Sure.
was wanting to get some clarification on that. And also another point of clarification, it had been mentioned that it may be 3 years to get us into a new facility on the fairgrounds. If everything goes lickety-split, possibly the 2, but you know, building happens and fundraising and that kind of stuff. What happens in that 3rd year? I know we're looking at the 70,000 for 2 years.
Right.
What would happen for that 3rd year?
Have no idea. No idea.
Didn't say, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we're doing facility stuff every week, all the time. So it doesn't mean that after 2 years that there might not be another option open up. We have no idea, and there's no, guarantee. Well, as hard as we work this time, we want to make sure that you do have a space.
Okay.
So,
I think that hits most of the points that I had been rolling around.
Okay.
So I actually walked away from the fairgrounds at the beginning of a rabbit show today, so, just so we could be
yeah,
here as
please,
part of the
please get back to the
conversation.
bunnies. That's way fun, way more
Actually,
fun.
we've got kids on the grounds showing their animals, so it's a cool day out there.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, Bill, did you have anything?
No, just, you mean on this or on the body scanner?
Oh, on this.
On this? No, I have nothing further.
Okay.
There's some,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you do, okay.
Commissioner Duncan, Commissioner Brooks. My name is Pierce Clegg. I've been involved with the county buildings, county government since about 1974. 12 years as your sheriff. During that time, we went through what you're having to go through right now. Expansion, 1980s, tremendous expansion, new jails. So I understand what you're facing. In my time, I've never seen any entity given 6 weeks to move out. Just imagine yourself, if someone walked in and said, you have 6 weeks to find a new place, and we're not sure where you're going. Whatever we do, I've heard a lot of different things, space of 2,000 square feet, 3,000 I just heard. These folks are struggling right now. I don't know, Commissioner Duncan, if you've ever paid a visit over there. I just left there a few minutes ago. I went in to get my absentee ballot and then walked around. There isn't a space that there isn't a book or something packaged in. You brought up a very interesting question. How many people are in there? I never see anybody. About 3 years ago, I went through a night school in the community room there that Chris Schleff put on. It was limited to about 35, 40 people just because they didn't have room. I knew he told us that night they had to turn away, I think it was 11 people. The following year, I wanted to attend the same class, and my wife, I wanted her to go this time because I wish I'd taken this 30 years ago, as we own agriculture and forest property. During that time, he said, we're full, and I said, well, then I'm going to give up my space and my wife's space so someone else can go. So they are using it. I've seen fund drives where you go in there and the kids are raising community food, and you'll see you can't even get through the door. There's so many baskets and whatnot. I don't know if the commissioners are fully aware of what this represents. First of all, you have the Idaho forestry part that represents about 1,000 loggers that go through these schools, agriculture people, foresters, people like myself. Then you have the 4-H. I think there's some 400 or plus kids. Then you have the master gardeners that I'm going to say is well in excess of 1,000, maybe even 2,000. Not to mention you have Farm Bureau, who's very active in all the entities I just spoke, and they represent another 3,200 people. So when you don't only hear 20 people, but not a lot of people going in, I probably call down there, especially during this time of year. I've had some trouble with some bugs, so I called down to find out information. I did not go in person. I want to talk a little bit about 4-H. As sheriff of the county, as a deputy in the county, I never, and I'm going to say this, never had a problem with a 4-H kid or their family, never. And because the families are involved, the kids are kept busy. Oh, at the county fair, you'll have the grab assing, where the kids let the sheep out or something, you know, maybe that's to impress the girl or something like that. But problems, so I have to look at it from, my jail wasn't full of kids, and I think it has a definite bearing. Where I'm going with this, please do not cut them short. I know they're in a rush right now. I know we're looking for buildings. I first came in here to talk about the armory, but seeing what everybody else wants at armory, I think ever since that hit the newspaper, that's been a prime spot. So I've changed my thought, but hearing that they're looking for some different areas, don't jump at the first thing just to get us off the hook and put us into 1,000 square feet, because it will not work.
Sure.
What they have right now is not working. I think the question from Ms. Wilson, I do not believe I've ever met her, was a very good one, is why does the clerk need this so quick? Is this a political power play? I understand what we're hearing. In fact, I was just told today that they're having a meeting down in Boise or something to find out what they're going to do as far as absentee or mail-in. I understand the problems there, but you have priorities. Just as when they pulled other, with the COVID, they pulled other entities from the other entities of the county to help them run that office. I had the same problem when we had disasters. We were limited on room, but we moved patrol up top and gave the disaster service the whole basement. Sometimes you just get overflown, but it's a temporary situation. I hate to see these folks lose what they have. They do need something larger and permanent. Unfortunately, they had an excellent building over at the corner of Dalton and Government Way that they lost, and that came in, I think, a little bit of two egos working, where one probably said the wrong thing to a commissioner, and next thing they were where they're at now, and then you're dealing with it. But anyhow, just my 2 cents worth. And
Sure.
I thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, sure. And a couple of your points. Many departments did not get a raise in their budgets. They did. They got a 5% increase over last year. So this board is not looking to get rid of the program at all, but we do have an obligation to provide a mandated services elections. And because of COVID has thrown such a monkey wrench in everything, we're doing the best that we can. They're doing the best they can. I mean, they had people working 7 days a week, you know, for weeks to get that primary election put on because it was all absentee. So I do understand, and I have spent many hours on this. And so it's something that we are trying to work through, and we're not trying to just stick them in any spot. We're spending time on this.
That's all I ask,
Yeah.
is that please consider that. And I would ask you to go out and pay a visit yourself personally and just walk through there and see what they're doing, because they do a tremendous job. And I just want this board to fully appreciate, you're talking several thousands of people who this program affects their lives.
Sure.
So thank you very much for your time. Yes, sir.
And Anthony, very quickly, to hurry up, move.
Yes.
We've been talking about this since June, I think you said the other day. So it's not a hurry up.
Okay.
But at the same time, I am opposed to making a big jump right now, because I think what we're facing is a temporary problem that I think they've said they're more than happy to bend on a temporary basis, and it'll give us time to find a good permanent solution. So that's my take on this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Bat Masters, and I've been a lifelong resident of Kootenai County, been involved in 4-H for 60-plus years. And I'm not going to duplicate what Pierce said. I would like to just add a point to something that he did say, and then I've got some other comments. Pierce mentioned about 400-plus kids in 4-H, and if you consider their parents, their grandparents that are involved in all this stuff in the county, plus the individual leaders, that really multiplies that number to a great higher number, probably somewhere in the thousands of people that 4-H represents. I am concerned when you said we don't know what we're going to do in 2 years. Very concerned. Because if you throw 4-H out, which it sounds like that's a plan.
No, not the plan at all.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I'm going to hold you to it.
Now, you also have 2 years, being such a supporter of the program, to find other options for them too.
And I'm more
if they're
than willing
permanent
to
home.
help do that.
Good, good.
Yeah, I am more than willing to help do that. But I don't think, as commissioners, you fully understand the impact of 4-H on Kootenai County.
I think
So-
the issue is I fully understand the impact of voting on the county. And that's where I have to focus my attention. And I'm trying very hard to find a good, suitable solution for U of I, and not just leaving them on their own, not saying, figure it out yourself. I personally have spent many hours trying to figure this out with them and for them. So I do understand the value of it. I really do. And I wish that I had a better solution that,
So let me just offer up one that I have thought about. Is there any consideration for maybe compromising with the U of I and the county on maybe temporarily having a smaller area, getting them in there so they can still do their job? I know Pierce pointed out, and I've been there myself, how crowded that is. But maybe there's something that, maybe it's not a 2,000 square foot building or not a 3,000 square foot building we need. There's got to be some kind of compromises here. But the compromise has to go both ways. And has that discussion been had? And I apologize, I don't know that, because sometimes the sources as a resident of the community that we get are not always accurate.
so in addition to the 5% that we have agreed to in their budget, we're also giving them $70,000 to house them for the next 2 years. So that is a pretty
Again-
big compromise.
Again, I'm looking at beyond 2 years.
Sure, and I understand that, but we have now potentially 2 years to figure out their permanent home. And we're saying that, we're hoping that a permanent home at the fairgrounds will be available in 2 years. That's our desire to go forward, and I know that's the fairgrounds' desire as well. Could be 18 months. We just don't know at this point because they're working on a master facility plan.
And when we do planning, one of the problems in Kootenai County is we have this 2-year, 4-year stuff.
Right.
And so in 2 years, this board could be completely different, except for me. Possible. And they may go for it, like I would, or they may not.
Well, again, I don't want to duplicate what Pierce said. I just want to ask that that be given a lot of thought before you
Absolutely.
decide that we're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and do away with 4-H. It's kind of ridiculous. So we have a 10-year or a 10-day fair, and the kids in 4-H wouldn't be able to show in their home county because we don't have a 4-H program.
Absolutely.
That's never been the discussion of this board, ever.
Okay. Thank you.
We agree.
Okay, body scanner and, oh,
No.
Really quick. So just to clarify, our current enrollment of youth is 700 youth members. And I am at 200 adult volunteers that are certified through the program.
Excellent, thank you.
thank you. Oh, Linda, this, we've got a couple minutes.
Covered a lot of the things that I was going to say. So, Linda Ryder, and I sit on the fair board. So that's the hat I'm going to wear. I was going to wear my 4-H mom hat. I've been involved with 4-H. I've been to the extension office when it was at the bottom of the courthouse next door. That's where it started when I was about 5 years old. And worked at the extension office for 9 years as the 4-H program assistant. So I feel like that I can say with some clarity of what that office needs to be. However, I'm going to put on the fair board hat because I'm not going to cover what Pierce already pretty well covered. It's the 2 years. How in the world can we do a master plan that's going to take 6 to 8 months, design a building, put it out for bids, get the contracts, and get it built in 2 years? I don't think that's realistic. And I think what you're creating for a short-term problem is a very long-term problem,
Bigger problem.
a very much bigger problem. I think you need to rethink this whole thing from the get-go.
Thank you for your input.
Linda?
Okay, any further public comments? Oh, just body scanner.
Body scanner is coming up. Excuse me, Pierce, are you going to be here for a minute? I would like to talk to you, please. Blah, 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 blah. It's coming.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we don't need to address the other
Can all go
things.
over and
There's
try
no
it.
updates. So, okay, with that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.